Okay, so I'm going to patiently wait for you all to come back on. My name is Y Renee. I'm a trauma recovery coach. I hail from outside the great city of Chicago, Illinois. And it's always something. Hey, welcome back. It's always something when somebody's going to help somebody. That's when the enemy get busy. And they,
They
they
don't want us to have this
I
conversation.
promise you, I was just saying, and I didn't even touch my screen or nothing. That's the problem. I had to, my hands are right here, right
Yeah.
here. So come
Well,
back,
the devil
everybody.
is a lie. The
Right.
devil is a lie because we having this conversation.
I'm so excited. Okay, so thank you all for coming back. Hello again. For those of you, I deleted the first video, so I'm gonna go back. And I'm gonna start over. My name is Y Renee. I'm a trauma recovery coach. I hail outside the great city of Chicago, Illinois. What I do is I help people overcome the triggers that are associated with trauma that have occurred for them. Tonight is good. You all have been watching me for the last 4 nights. Tonight is gonna be really good because I have my good friend here by Tonia Reeves that's on here, and Tonia decided to be my first interviewee, which I'm really excited about. And we're just going to have a conversation pertaining to all things divorce. And I was going back when I first did the other video hello, how are you? Before we got rudely cut off. In that video, it basically said how Tanya and I met. Tanya and I met at a speaking engagement that I had back in March of 2019. And from that, she wanted me to, I'm giving you a short version now. She wanted me to come and speak at her event, and I did. And since then, we've been communicating. She has an awesome retreat we'll talk about towards the end. That's next weekend, and she has me speaking at that as well. So I'm honored to have her on my platform. And we're just going to get into this conversation, girl. So as I was asking before we was rudely interrupted, when you filling out applications,
Yes.
do you still check? Do you check single, divorce? Well, now because you're not married, or are you remarried?
I am single,
Okay.
dating, and
Single date.
I get confused at that question because I don't always want to say divorce because I don't like that label. I
Okay.
just want to, I don't even want, honestly, no ties to that situation no more,
Oh,
except my children. So I do go through a issue. It is a trigger for me when I go through that application. I'm like, even when I'm doing my taxes, I don't want to have to answer all them questions. I just want to be head of my household. Period. All
period.
the extra stuff ain't necessary. Like, quit asking me of my divorce. That ain't y'all business.
Man, your business. So, question: how long have you been divorced now?
I'm sorry.
How long have you been divorced now?
Um, let's see. I got divorced in 2004, so about 17 years.
17 years. Okay, awesome, amazing. Okay,
Well,
so
let me correct myself. The divorce was finalized in 2006. I left him in 2004, so I've been free for 17 years and divorced for 15.
okay, very good. All right then. Well, if you're excited about your divorce, I'll say congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
So I'm gonna ask you a couple questions. If some of these questions are too personal, by all means, just say Renee, mind your business, and I'm gonna mind my business. Um, if you feel like leading, because when you're having a conversation, and if the conversation gets good, it's a possibility that one question may lead to another one. So just
Right.
be prepared that I may
Oh
kind of,
yeah.
because I just wrote down a couple basic ones that I'm going to ask everybody
Okay.
that comes on my platform. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine. I
Awesome.
look at it like this. I don't really have a problem answering the question because it might help somebody else. So
Okay,
yeah.
amazing. Okay, wonderful. So, when you decided, okay, so who decided? Okay, so I know part of your story because you're a domestic abuse survivor. So
Yeah.
was it you finally got the nerve to leave and then you filed for divorce, or was the divorce your partner's idea?
Well, um, that's a tricky question because the way that our marriage went, it was almost like it was almost like he never wanted to be married. So the abuse started within a month of marriage, and I stayed because I was pregnant with our first child. And I moved all the way to Savannah, Georgia, away from my family, and I couldn't just pick up and leave at that moment, which is which is why I regretted moving away from home. But fast forward to the 10 years of us being together, we just had, I think we had a mutual decision that we weren't going to be able to be together.
So it was mutual.
Yeah.
Okay, so cool. Okay, so understood. And I'm gonna probably bring you back on in the month of October just to let you know.
Okay.
So get your heads up. But of course, that conversation will be more about DV. My month for October will be the month of talking about DV. So
Yeah.
thank you. So it was mutual, and to make the decision to be divorced. When you decided to divorce, did you have any support during the process? Like, did you call on family members and friends, or did you have to do it by yourself?
Actually, I had a lot of support, and it was actually support that I didn't think I had. People came out of the woodworks to help me, and I could say that I was blessed at that moment. My mother, my mother's friends, and God blessed me to have somebody that actually worked at the courthouse that recognized me because I look like my mother, and so she kind of tried to help me the best she can without getting herself in trouble, because she's not supposed to give favor over either one of us.
Right.
But it was just a blessing, and like, okay, well, I'm going, and yeah, I was like, well, thank you. So yeah, she gave me the paperwork that I needed. He actually filed for the divorce,
Mm-hmm.
and tried to make me pay for the divorce, but it didn't happen like that. God took care of it, and I was fine. I was actually happy um, that the paperwork got put through. I couldn't bring myself to do it.
Okay.
Even though I wanted to be divorced, I just had a lot of fear of actually having to travel to the courthouse. I needed somebody to come with me because of the situation that I was going through with him. Um, the divorce didn't actually get filed until, I want to say, 3 months after. Because I thought I was just going to be able to just file it and not have no contest or none of that, because I had a order of protection against him. So he wasn't supposed to contact me. And in order for him to file for the divorce, he actually had to serve me. You had the paper served to me. So it was kind of weird how everything went. But either here or there, I was happy that he filed, and I was here, signed on the dotted line real quick.
Okay, so let's go back for a minute. First of all, hello to everybody who's joining. Thank you so much for coming on the live. We're talking about all things divorce. So you said a couple things that to me is good, because I'm talking about the traumas and triggers associated with divorce, not just divorce itself. So you said that you were pretty much triggered, basically, or you felt traumatized having to actually go through the motions yourself, even though you wanted the divorce. What was that? Hello, sweetheart. What was that all for you? Like, I mean, okay, so I guess my question would be, were you afraid of being alone now because you did this for 10 years? Or were you just nervous about the whole process? What triggered you to not want to necessarily go through with it at that? Well, not necessarily not go through it, but to go through the motions.
Well, the first thing was a safety issue. I didn't want to be by myself as far as going back and forth to the court building, because he wasn't I didn't know if he was able to get to me physically. So that was the main issue with me, having to continuously look over my shoulder.
Well, with the restraining order, let me ask you a question, because I too had a restraining order. The court system didn't make you all get attorneys, or did you have to hire an attorney?
Well, I ended up getting an attorney at the last minute. Okay. I went through the Metropolitan Legal Assistance, and when I went into the office, they had a location in South Holland, and so I went over there and I spoke to someone, and they took my case, and but this was like prior to getting the attorney. I was going back and forth there by myself. And the reason why I ended up getting an attorney is because he wanted to take custody of my kids.
Well, and the reason why I asked it is because, again, I don't know if things changed. However, and every case is different. So one of the reasons why I said that was because I filed a restraining order myself. I filed my restraining order against my ex-husband. And when I went into the courthouse with them and we started talking about things divorce, they told me, because we couldn't talk because of the restraining order, that we could not be in court without some type of representation. So one of us had to get an attorney
Right.
to talk for us, because we could not talk to each other. So that's why I was kind of curious to know, did you have to have an attorney in the beginning, or did you have some type of mediator? So I get the whole walking over, looking over your shoulder, because I felt the same way. You never know if they're going to follow you
Right.
afterwards or how they're going to be after, especially when you're dealing with a real narcissist. So I get it.
Right.
Okay, so what negative thoughts or cliches did you feel during the process of divorce, like going through the actual motions? Well, first of all, how long, let me ask you one question in between. How long did it take your divorce to happen from the time you filed or you responded, because he filed, from the time
Okay,
you
so
responded until it ended?
he actually filed, I want to say sometime in October. Um, we were going back and forth. I want to say uh, November through maybe that entire year following. Um, it took about 2 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it took
Okay.
about 2 years. Because once the judge, um, they transferred our case, because first we were in Markham courthouse,
Mm-hmm.
and then they transferred us to downtown to family court because it was involving the children, and they wanted to give my children an attorney,
Okay.
so they had to get a guardianship attorney, which they only have them located downtown.
Okay.
So they transferred my case to the downtown location, and then they assigned a guardianship to my children, so that my children had representation as well. So he basically, it was attorney-client privilege with my children. He had conversations with my kids that I couldn't even have, you know, don't even know what was said, or were not allowed to be present or anything. And it was just because they wanted to make sure that I wasn't influencing my children in any way. And of course, he had no contact to them. So they wanted to make sure that I wasn't trying to coerce my children to say anything or do anything, and to try to, influence them. They wanted to make sure my children's rights were heard.
Okay. How
So
old were
that's
your
what
children at the time?
my youngest was about 3,
Oh,
going on
wow.
4.
Okay.
My oldest was 16.
Okay. Okay.
And yeah, so I want to say my middle son, he was about 7 or 8, and it was his dad, so he kind of took it harder than anybody, because his father basically rejected him.
Hmm.
So it was really hard on him. Um, but the other kids were pretty much ready to go, just like I was.
Okay.
My baby boy, he basically came to me and was like, he didn't want to be there anymore. He was scared of his father, and that's what gave me the okay to go, because it was like, with me, I didn't know how he was going to react once we left. How was this baby going to react to not being around his dad? And then my older 3 were ready. They were ready to go. So once I got the okay sign from the baby boy, I'm like, okay, now it's time to go. And I was able to safely find a way to remove me and my children from the situation.
That's
And
big too, because we'll talk about that more in DV month when we talk about making a
yeah,
plan of escape that's safe. So
yeah,
when you think about going through the process, what like negative thoughts did you have, and like did you blame yourself throughout the process? Because that's a long process too. I mean, I thought mine was a long process, being a year. Look, a year, 2 months, and 9 days exactly. And I
yeah.
wish I could count down the hours and the minutes, but
Okay.
however, um,
The
it's still a
the
long
only
process.
the only thing that I blame myself for a long time was not leaving sooner, and I think I still have that, self blame, that I stayed longer than I should have. But I'm getting through that, because whatever it was, God worked it out. Whatever the situation was, God worked it out. I just hate that certain things happen that could have been avoided had I left when I got the first warning.
Okay.
You know, when I got the first warning, and I stayed in a situation because of my baby boy when he might not have even had to be involved in any of that. So, but I'm grateful to the process that it's over with. It took 2 years, but it was worth it.
Okay, so here we go. It's a real question because I know being a DV victim, we have that in common. So I tell people all the time when I tell my story that when I met my abuser, he wasn't abusive, of course. So we're attracted to our abusers because they're charismatic, they're nice, whatever have you. We just don't go out to meet abusers. So
Right.
even though the abuse happened after the marriage, was there any time when okay, so I'm quite sure at that point in time, you probably started feeling some kind of way like you wanted to leave or you didn't know what you were going to do. Anytime during the course of the marriage, did you put forth any efforts to actually save the marriage? Or once you knew the abuse started, were you just pretty much done, but you just didn't know how to leave because of the kids?
Um, to answer that question, I always wanted to try to make it work, because I didn't want to feel like a fool, if that makes sense.
Or
Um,
failure?
right. And so I was like, well, is it something that I went through the blame. Is it something that I'm not doing right? Is it something that I'm not saying right? I cook dinner, I work. What is it that I'm not doing that causes him to be this way? And then it got to the points where it was stuff that was happening that made no sense, like stuff that I had no control over. So there was a point where I did want it to work, but then I knew it wasn't going to.
Okay.
And I was just looking for the right time to safely get my family out of there. I didn't want to put my mother or anybody else in harm's way, because I knew that once I left, I was gonna have to disappear.
Okay.
So, and I didn't
Levanta
want to put.
says she commends you on sharing your testimony. She said, look at you now, beautiful, empowered woman. She loves you.
I love you
Awesome. Thank
too,
you for joining
Levanta.
us, sis. We appreciate you. So I do understand that as well. We play the blame game and stuff like that. Again, you and I will go deeper than the month of October. So you need to tell me what day you want to be on my calendar already, because we're gonna schedule it out in
Okay.
advance. But
Okay.
what things would you say still trigger you today, even though it's been 16 years? What, 16 years you said?
Yep.
Okay, so it's been 16 years. Are there things that still trigger you today, whether it be pertaining to the divorce itself, or even because the divorce and the DV kind of go hand in hand, because you probably would still be married, I would assume, if
If
it
it
wasn't for
wasn't
the violence. You know what I'm saying?
right,
So,
if it hadn't been for the domestic violence and some other things that he did that I can't really talk about, if it wasn't for the things that he did and the violence, he was an intelligent person. Um, he was a hard worker, you know, and he was a decent provider up until his horns came out.
mhm,
um, and we probably would have still been together if all the other things
didn't happen.
that he didn't happen.
Okay, so
Um,
is there anything that triggers you today? Like you just said, okay, let me give you an example. You said you're dating again. Am I correct?
yes.
So how long did it take you to start dating again? And is there something inside of your dating that triggered you not to want to date for a while, or you know?
There was a situation where once I left him, I met somebody in the process of me leaving, um, and he saw a damsel in distress and tried to use that to get to me. And he saw my Bible sitting on my car seat, and he started flirting with me, nonchalantly, like using the Bible to get to me, and I fell for it. But then I saw the warning signs immediately before I got really into a relationship with this guy. I saw the warning signs immediately, so I shut down. And I decided at that point I needed to give myself some time because I was too vulnerable to be in a relationship with anyone. So I would say to get into a serious relationship with anybody took about 2 years.
Okay.
Um, I started being, friends with people and stuff like that, but I didn't want to take it any further than that. The person that I'm with now, I've been with him since 2006. So I
Oh,
want
okay.
to say 2 years after I left, I met him. And we've just started out as friends, and we enjoyed each other's time, hung out together, did a lot of fun things together, and we just developed a really close friendship, and it became serious as the years go. Um, we have a pretty good relationship. We don't argue. We don't fight. I let him know on the door, if you like to fight, if you like to argue, if you like to raise your voice, if you're controlling, if you have an issue with anything I wear, how I look, how I dress, I'm not the person you want to date. I let them know, right? I don't want to be bothered with any headaches, any drama. If that's the type of person you are, I'm letting you know right now it's better for you to be by yourself, because I am not accepting any abuse or any type of physical, any of that. I'm not accepting that. I don't know what I'm gonna do if you look like you finna try to, So that was my trigger. I had a hard time trusting. I had a
Okay.
really hard time trusting.
Okay.
Um,
Unapologetic and unbothered POD says, I'm remarried, but it's crazy that I think that if he breaks into my house to harm me, he knows where I live, but has kept his location secret. Yes, that can be very triggering. And I would tell you to, if it was a domestic situation, to just always be very, very careful.
yeah,
And there's ways to find out where people stay at, but we can talk about that offline if you want to hit
yeah,
me up.
yeah.
Um, so do you think, okay, so you've been with this significant other for what's that? Almost,
Almost 15 years.
wow. Okay, so do you consider, or do you want to get married again, or are you okay where you're at?
At first, I really wanted to get remarried. Um, but now it's not my priority. If we get married, I would love to be his wife or whatever, but that's not the first thing on my list. I think in the beginning I was like really, really, really wanted to make him commit and things like that. But as time grew, God started shifting my focus on my ministry and building my relationship with him, and repairing the relationship with my children, because my children had a lot of secret hurts. They didn't want to tell me because they didn't want to hurt my feelings, but they went through it with me. So there was a point where I got better, but they didn't. And so they're older now, so they're feeling comfortable coming to me and sitting down talking to me. And it actually have strengthened me and my daughter's relationship, because she's the only girl.
Okay.
And so we are able to sit down and talk about like everything from detail, um, without her feeling, some type of way, or me feeling some type of way. I just told her, I said, however you're feeling, just dump it all out on the table. Give it to me. If you think it's gonna hurt my feelings, say it anyway. Because I need for you to heal. You know, my relationship caused you to be hurt. And so I need for you to heal. I don't need you carrying this baggage on for the rest of your life, because it's gonna ruin your relationship with your daughter. I don't want that. So leave it here. Let's end that generational curse right here. We're gonna
Awesome.
stop it. And so
Awesome.
that's why, because I didn't want her to get into a relationship like mine. I didn't want her to be attracted to abusive men like I was. I didn't want her to be um, showing her daughter that abusive lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? And so I had to end it there. I didn't want her to ever get into a relationship with somebody that felt like it was okay to hit her. And I didn't want my granddaughter to ever see her mommy being abused. So I pulled her in, and she came to me on her own, and we talked and we got it all out on the table. And my boys, you know, they're talking to me too, but they're not as out outward as she is. I have one son that has always been open with me, telling me everything how he felt, which I appreciate that. And then I got one that's just quiet, and he won't talk about it. You know what I'm saying? He tries to tell me certain things, but he doesn't really know how to express it.
Okay.
So it hurt my children a lot, and I think that's the biggest trigger is watching my children hurt. It makes me emotional. Um, but I want them to, they're adults now, and I want them to have a happy life now.
And
I
have
don't want them
healthy relationships. I
right.
get it. Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't want them dragging my baggage along from relationship to relationship. I want them to heal from it. And so, I hope they're watching because they need to heal too. You know what I'm saying? I'm when I say I'm healed, people see that it's still a little touch of the hurt
Residue.
there, but it's
Residue.
mostly because of my kids. I don't want them hurt, but them seeing me like all my pictures and all of the growth that is helping them. You know what I'm saying? Them seeing my healing because that was part of it. You watch your mother hurting a kid. You don't know any better. You don't know what's going on. You just know that you see your mom crying a lot. My middle son, I remember when he was a 6-month-old baby, he knew when I was hurting. He would crawl over on my lap and hug my neck and wipe the tears off my face.
Oh wow.
And he still has that same how can I say it? He still has that same demeanor about himself.
Okay. Making sure that you're all right all the time.
Yes.
Okay.
And he's like my I don't want him to be like this, but it's like he's my protector. I want him to be able to, be okay and know mommy's okay. You know what I'm saying? I want him stressing out over me. So
How old
that's
is he
that's
now?
he is 25.
Has he ever gotten professional help?
When they were younger, when we first got out of it,
Okay.
they had counseling and everything, but I don't think it really helped them that much because they didn't really. It was like they got tired of talking about it every day.
Mm-hmm.
When they went to counseling,
You may want to suggest it now that he's older. Dealing
right,
with at different age, adolescence and adult are two different things. So this is something you may want to suggest. I mean, he's still growing, he's gonna make his own decisions, but something you suggest at this age. I'm gonna read a couple more of the comments. Be inspired, which is Tiffany, which will also be here next week. She says, I'm not she was not accepting that, and she's happy that you set boundaries early. Purpose driven, which is my girlfriend Kelly, said something was very important. Lavana said she loved it. Kelly said, yep, don't forget the kids need to heal too.
yeah, they are most important. They are
Yep.
most important because
um Unapologetic Bother said her sister was recently diagnosed with PTSD because of the abuse. She was
yes,
5 years at the time of divorce, and now she's 15, but she's in counseling. I'm glad you're getting her help.
yes,
I also mentor young kids too. So unapologetic. If you want to hit me up, let me know. I do have a mentoring program. I have young people who have attached themselves to me, and sometimes, and the reason why I say this is shameless plug for my business, but sometimes people won't talk to therapists because they can't relate to them on their level.
right,
And that's nothing against the therapist, because I went to go see therapy too, but my therapist came back to me and told me one thing. He said, as much as I want to relate, he's like, after I get you to a certain point, there's certain things I'm not going to be able to do. Why? Because one, I'm not a female. Two, I'm not African American. And three, I've never been abused. And four, I've never been shot. So he knew after a certain place of getting me to understand certain things about my trauma and what happened and getting over certain things, I was going to have to look for help somewhere else, or either,
right,
for lack of better words, figure it out on my own.
right,
And I did figure it out on my own. And because I figured it out on my own, that's how I'm able to help other people. So just a
yeah,
shameless plug out there. But I'm glad you have her in counseling. That's amazing. Um, Tiffany says she's inspired. She admires your transparency and resiliency. Lavonna says, I definitely can relate. I watched my mom experience domestic violence. Lord knows that was hurtful because it really hurt. I'm glad the kids are going through healing. Lavanya asked, how long did it take you, or do you still have some instances, or where are you triggered still by certain things because you didn't experience the abuse, but you experienced your parents going through the abuse, which is another great topic. So just, I mean, I might bring you on to domestic violence month, so don't answer that right now. Hey, but just think about it for October. And Kelly says, has he seen you, and has your ex-husband seen you in a healthy relationship now?
My
Tonya?
ex, my ex-husband is not supposed to be seeing me, period. But he stalks one of my Facebook pages. So I don't really post any personal information. Mostly I just talk about my ministry and our situation, which he already knows all about that. So as far as anything new that's going on in my life, he won't know unless he come to my door, and if he come to my door, he'll be arrested. So I hope he don't know anything about me and my relationship. It's okay if he do, because look, I'm protected. But I don't think he has any information about me. He just, like I said, he stalks my page and try to get what he can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh no, your son. Has your son seen you in a healthy relationship? Not your
Oh,
ex-husband.
I'm
I'm sorry, I
sorry. I thought you said my
misunderstood.
ex-husband. Oh yes, my son is happy with the person I'm with now. They talk a lot. They have conversations without me being around. So I'm like, okay, well, y'all go hang out then. I'll go to my room.
That's
But
good.
yeah, they like
So
each
yeah,
other.
it's probably that, like Kelly said, it probably has helped him in his healing a little bit. Seeing a positive role model in a positive relationship, so he doesn't have to worry about the negativity. Because another thing, and I mean this goes to domestic violence, but divorce too. When you think about children, and unfortunately I wasn't blessed to have any naturally. I have plenty of adopted godchildren, nieces, nephews, and all those people that kind of cling on to me. However, I have heard stories that watching adults go through abuse or watch adults go through divorce, one or two things can happen. Like you said, with your daughter, you're trying to break that cycle, making sure that she doesn't have to do it, whatever have you. But you also have to watch the men too, because the men can do one or two things. They can pick it up and be abusers because that's the what they've been accustomed to, or they can not want to be in relationships for fear of being divorced and things of that
Mm-hmm.
nature. So those are the things that you really, really have to be aware of when you're dealing with it and dealing with kids or young adults too. And then there are those amazing children that are not affected at all, and they're able to actually you know decide that they don't want to be that way, and they go the total opposite. I'll use
Right.
an example. I know there are quite a few men that I know that didn't have males in their lives to show them how to be men or fathers, but they're some of the most amazing fathers because they made a decision that they were going to be better, whether they had to get a male mentor or not.
Right.
And they're amazing fathers now. They didn't let that be negative. So um, let's see. Kelly said, I grew up witnessing my mother being abused by my father. I told myself that I would never date someone who was abusive when I got older. However, I ended up in a relationship with a man who abused me. You know what? I will talk to you too one day, because I know talking to you the other day that you're healed. I can see it all over you. However, what we watch, or sometimes even though we try to avoid it, sometimes those, for lack of better words, and this is again me being a woman of faith, those spirits, they seek us out because a portal had been opened and we
Yeah.
probably never really shut it. So even if it's a little creek to get in, even though it may not have been something that you've been directly involved in, if they see a way to sneak in somewhere. And again, we all know, anybody who's dealt with domestic violence knows that majority of the abusers are narcissistic, which means they're
Right.
controlling and manipulative, but they're also very charming and charismatic. My famous thing when I go to domestic violence shelters, or when I talk about domestic violence, when I go to these events and I'm speaking about that particular topic, I love to tell people, because they'll be like, well, why did you stay so long? And why did you do this, that, and the other? I don't have kids for my reasoning. My reasoning was, well, when I was walking down the street, I didn't see him jumping on nobody else and say, hey, quit jumping on her, come be with me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's not his. I was attracted to him because he was very nice. We dated. He took me out. He paid attention to me. He did things he was supposed to be doing to make me want to be with him. So,
Right.
Kelly says she saw her mom abused in 2 relationships and refused to go through a few physical abuse. Very good. Hey, Nicole, thank you for joining us. And yep, see, she agreed. He was definitely charming and charismatic.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I really appreciate you joining me. I hope we've been on for almost 45 minutes. Nicole, you saw your mom being abused too. It's tragic. I didn't see that in my household. I think my story for me, and again, this is something we'll talk about in October because it's getting off the subject of divorce. But for me, my father was present but also absent. And I think that deep down inside, I was a little girl looking for a male affection and did not know how to get it, because even though my dad was in my home and I never seen him abuse my mom, I never seen any negativity. I also did not see him being affectionate because my father's older. And sometimes when you come from old school with petticoats and things like that, PDAs was not common.
Right.
So being in front of your kids, hugging and kissing like people do now, that was not in my household. So I didn't know what affection looked like. I didn't know what relationship love looked like. I knew what parental love looked like. I didn't know what relationship looked like. So anyway, we'll talk about that at a later date. But I thank you so much for joining me. I'm honored that you came in to share your story. Well, tell people what you got going on. I will allow you to, talk about yourself and who you are and what you got going on. I talked about the retreat, so you can talk about that a little bit more since tickets are still available.
Yes. So I am a motivational speaker. Of course, now I'm also a survivor of domestic violence and child sexual abuse. I am having a women's mini retreat next weekend on the 13th, 14th, and 15th at the Oak Brook Sleep Inn. You can inbox me if you are interested in coming. However, the deadline is going to be the 10th because I do have to pay for the rooms and everything by the 11th. So I need to get a head count. But there are going to be 3 life coaches there, and they're going to be talking about, Renee is going to be talking about trauma, and I have somebody talking about healing. And I have someone there that's going to be talking about building healthy relationships, which would be Levanta. She's online also, talking about healing. And so I am going to basically share very briefly my story. I'm not going to get too much into it, but we're going to be talking about healing and how to heal and how to deal with those triggers, the trauma triggers. We're going to be talking about how to build healthy relationships and how to stay away from that toxic stuff. Anytime you see toxic, we're going to help you recognize it so that you won't get caught up in another abusive relationship. The point of the healing conference, this conference, is so that when you walk away, you'll know how to deal with your situation in a more healthy way. And hopefully you'll be able to reach the level where you can not just look happy, but actually feel happy. I'm not saying we got the cure-all, but we can at least put you in the right direction of healing. We're going to try our best to put you in the right direction. And we're going to have some fun, too. We're going to have, we're going to play some games. I have a massage therapist that's going to be there, which is why it's very important that I have a head count before the 10th so I can let her know, what she's preparing for. Her name is Veronica Williams. She's also known as Lady Red. The name of her business is The Royal Touch. So you want to make sure that you are there, and you also want to come and listen to Miss Renee and Miss Levan to get us together. And Tonia Jackson, if you know Tonia Jackson, she is going to be talking about healing through journalism. She is a well-known publisher. She is hosting the Gala Awards soon. If you don't know, her page is Tonia M. Jackson. APS
Oh,
International. Yep. So
whoever said, look, thank you for saying I'm amazing. I'm just a little old nobody trying to be better.
so I'm just really excited, and I thank you so much for having me on. I hope that my story was able to help other people, and
I believe it will. I think that some people, it'll give people something to talk about. That's why I wanted to invite different people to come on, because these things, I love you, Nicole. These things, these things are conversations that people don't talk about. And I think
right,
that one of the things that I was saying when I decided to become a coach, and I did my certifications, a lot of people get out here and they become life coaches, and they're all pumped up and they talk about trying to get you to your next, and they trying to get you to your best life, and they
yeah,
building your business, and they helping you get past this and other. But what about those people who can't get past those things because they're dealing with issues that they don't know how to talk about?
exactly,
So my niche is difficult. Trying to get a clientele for my niche is even more difficult.
yeah,
However, I know there's a need, and I'm just waiting for God to open up my floodgates and make it happen.
I was
So
say
I just really believe that meeting people like you, and you allowing me on your platform, it opens doors for me to let
absolutely.
people know what I'm capable of doing, and what I can do. And again, I just thank God that when even for the little 30 minutes that I had at Lakeisha's gala, you saw value in what I
My
said.
goodness,
It wasn't
that
just,
that that story moved me. Like, I was like, wow, you
well, I
know,
don't think it was just the story, because, I told my story, but I think that it was the other things too. And I
the
think, I
healing process
thank God.
after it.
I thank God that I don't look like what I've been through. And
Right.
not only don't I look like what I've been through, I don't act like I've been through what I've
That's
been through.
that's what I'm saying. The growth after when you told your story, and I saw who you are now, because I didn't know you when that happened. I don't know that person. I know who you are today, and that's what made me like, okay, it's like that point when you say, for instance, when I and this is why I said what I said about the pictures. I put a picture of myself when I was 3, before I got abused. And I say about 4 or 5 years old, I started being molested by my babysitter. Then it just spiraled out of control as far as when I got older, and got into abusive relationships, got into relationships where people didn't value me, got into relationships where people didn't respect me. And it was because I was attracting that behavior. I was attracting people that didn't love me. And I was dealing with it because that's how that taught me how to deal with it. And instead of me putting up those barriers, like, no, I'm not going to deal with it, I found a way to deal with toxic people.
Mm-hmm.
I accepted it. But then it got to the point where that toxic behavior was hurting me to the point where I couldn't stand being around myself. And so once I got past that, I see the me that I am now, and I'm happy. Like, I'm literally happy. I've never felt this before. And when I saw you speak, I'm like, it can happen. You know what I'm saying? I can heal from that. I can be okay. Cause your confidence was like affectionate. It was what do you call that? Contagious.
Well, thank you, Tanya. I appreciate
You're
you.
welcome.
You're amazing. You're amazing. So, well, thank you again for joining me. You'll be back with me in the month of October. We'll discuss that at a later date, because I got to get
Yes.
through September too. However,
Yes.
but thank you again for joining me. And if anybody else is interested, I do have a few more days left if you want to talk about all things divorce for the month of August. I do
Thank
have a
you,
couple more days
Nicole.
yet. I got you together a few months ago. Well, praise God for getting people together. Oh, Tanya got you. Tanya, you got Nicole together, or was that
I
me?
think I think she talking about. I don't know. I think she talking about me. She said you
But
so
did good,
awesome,
girl. Tanya
Tanya.
got
Thank
good.
you.
Tanya, you got, yeah, you 1,000%. See, she talking about you. She ain't talking about me. All right, now, praise God.
Thank you.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us.
Oh,
No,
she
me?
was talking to you.
Oh, it was me. Oh, well, thank you, ma'am. I sure appreciate you. I sure appreciate you. You're amazing. So again, thank you all for joining me. This is Why Renee, your trauma recovery coach. Oh, see, that's a whole nother realm. You brought on the perfect. See, you talking about the okay, never mind. We're not gonna talk about that on here. I love you. So you guys, this has been amazing. Tonia, again, thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Anytime. So you guys, this is Why Renee, your trauma recovery coach. Look forward. I will be back on tomorrow night with another guest. My guest tomorrow, I gotta check my calendar. So give me a minute. Since I'm still talking. Hold on one second. Look, you got stuff together around here. It's right here though. This is my calendar. So we're gonna go to the
at
month.
least you organized.
Girl, don't let it fool you. Luckily this camera only goes so far because the rest of this around here, hot mess. Tomorrow I have Jada Monet Green on. Somebody who's seen one of my posts and decided she wants to talk about it too, so I'm excited about having her on. I'll be putting her flyer up shortly. So you all tune in tomorrow, same bad time, same bad channel, as long as the Lord is willing. So 7 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on IG. Thank you all for joining us. I appreciate you all so much. My sister's joining. Sister, you're going to have to go back and watch the replay. But I love you. Tonia, thank you so much. I love you. And if I don't talk to you anymore this week, which I'm quite sure I will, I'll definitely see you next weekend at the retreat. If you are interested in the retreat, either inbox Tonia or myself. I can give you pricing. We have a price or I won't say we because it ain't my retreat. Tonia has a price if you want to stay the weekend in rooms and your meals are included. Or if you just want to come the day of Friday night and Saturday, you don't want to stay. We have separate prices for that too. I love you too, Nicole. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you, Tiffany, for enjoying and participating in the conversation. We appreciate you. And we can't wait to meet Tiffany here in Chicago too.
I forgot to tell. I'm sorry. Tiffany will be here also. I can't wait. She's coming from Philadelphia.
I thought you would put her out because you ain't mentioned her. I didn't want to say nothing about my retreat. No, I'm joking, Tiffany. I'm kidding, Tiffany. I'm kidding.
I said to Neil and Levanta and everybody but Tiffany, y'all gotta come see Tiffany. She's coming all the way from Philadelphia.
Yes, Tiffany is joining us from Philadelphia, PA. She gonna bring us some Philly cheesesteaks on the plane. I'm gonna send her some money before she get on the plane. She can bring them with her. Praise God for fatness. All right now. So again, I want to thank you all for joining us. You all have an amazing evening, and I'll catch you back here tomorrow night at the same time. We're talking about all things the voice, triggers, and trauma. Thank you very much. You guys have a good night.
Bye-bye. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, baby. Thank you.
Bye-bye.